Okay, we are now live.
Okay, thank you. And if you bring up the little thing, so we'll be getting to that pretty quickly. Thank you. Okay, so Karen's ready, staff ready? Okay. Good evening, welcome to the Independence City Council meeting. It's Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. It's 6:30 in the evening and the rains have begun. Let the record show that Councilor Morton is out this evening. She's excused. Everybody else is here. Council members, you have the minutes from the September 12th meeting in your packet, and do they meet with your approval? Don't all speak at once.
Second.
Have a motion second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries. We're going to have...
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I didn't get the second.
Shannon.
Thank you.
We're going to go to visitor comment because we already had our public comment on transportation and things like that. So this is under our... This is under public comment, so please keep your comments to 3 minutes, please. And Harvey Cummins, you're first.
Yeah, Harvey's not here yet. He's on his way.
I'll put him at the bottom of the pile. Larry Dalkey. Good evening.
Staff and council and mayor. I've been up here before talking about the SDCs and what it's going to do to the future of this, of any of your projects. And my heart sunk when I talked to a competitor here recently in in Salem. He's a builder, and I was talking to him about SDCs, and I asked him what he paid in City of Kaiser, and he paid $9,000 for a residence, and he paid $15,000 for a duplex. And again, we're at, I believe, I don't know the number exactly, but around 33 to 35 for single-family residences, and 50,000 for duplexes. So with that in mind, it's in your hands to decide, where you're headed with all this. I think there's other avenues, and I'm working on those, to find infrastructure money, and I know the city staff's working to find infrastructure money for the city to help them, move forward. So that's the direction. I'm concerned that I'm going to have trouble selling lots here once we start. And again, I had a goal that to break ground this summer, and it didn't happen for many reasons. We were making every effort we could on our side and to work well with the city, and it just for some reason didn't happen, and I'm disappointed in that. And but maybe it's a blessing with the economy the way it is and some of the uncertainty out there today. But again, I think the city is going down the wrong road to pass this, increase it. I think they ought to be looking at reductions in the future somehow and work together with the developers that are coming along and I know a lot of stuff's being thrown at us too, and I don't want to get into all the detail of the expense of what it's going to cost, but we're getting away from affordable housing too. So I think there's a lot more on your shoulders than to make this decision. And I'm just here to relay what I feel, and it's not all about me as a developer. It's your future, not the developers, but we're here only to help, I think, the growth that I believe the city wants and provide affordable housing the best we can for this city. So that's what I'm here to do, and I've enjoyed. Thank you. I'll be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time to come in.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What's your
I
question?
was wondering how many lots there were that you were talking about.
Yeah, what was the question?
How many
Well, currently, we're trying to get 44 lots going this summer, so
Thank you.
that was my goal. And so, any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And Chet Graham? Good evening, sir. Thanks for being here.
I'm actually the realtor out there in Brandy Meadows, and, I came up and spoke the last time we talked about the SDCs. And as we are seeing now what's happened, there's nobody coming to buy the houses. They're starting to sit on the shelf. We are not competitive any longer. Our houses are beautiful. I hope you guys all would have come out this weekend when we invited you out for lunch to see them before, but did you ever get the invitations? Come out this weekend in your boxes?
I'm sorry,
No?
no.
Thank you.
Well, that hurts. Anyway, we have 8 finished homes. They're beautiful. The traffic has stopped, and I cannot be competitive with the homes that are in Dallas when they're at $275 a foot, and we're sitting here at $350. At the beginning, I was able to, by increasing the quality of the homes that we're building, I was being able to turn some of the more experienced buyers into the homes, and they could see what they were getting for the value to pay. But when you could go over in Dallas and now get a larger home, 3-car garage and a 7,000 square foot lot for what I am offering a 1,560 square foot home on a 5,000 square foot home lot for. So I don't know what to say. It's made it really difficult. I don't think you should be passing any more on the SDCs, and we need to probably start talking about a break if things don't improve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time to come in. And is Chet here?
I'm checking.
Oh, I'm sorry. I scribbled in the wrong place. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you. Harvey, is Harvey here?
Yeah, I am.
Good evening, Harvey. Welcome to City Council,
Thank you, Harvey Cummings.
and we do have your letter.
Yeah, about an hour or so ago, you got this letter. I sent it down on September 22nd to city staff in order so you could get it and process it, because there's a lot of numbers and references and et cetera in this, and the concepts kind of were tough. So I really wanted you to get this about a month ago so you could really process it. I wasn't coming down today. I'm driving 3 hours for this 3 minutes to try to explain and bring this to you a little bit. Yeah, I think it's super important. Main reason I'm here is and to answer your question, the whole development's around 720 units. And, we're about to lose these developers. They've been pushed back on super hard comparatively to other spots and comparatively to the first phases here. So they're getting a lot of pressure and they're getting pushed back on. So that's why I'm here. I think that if those developers leave, and I feel that's extremely close, that the Southwest Concept Plan is going to be dead in the water for quite a while, because it's critical that this happens for that. So that said, without getting deep in the numbers, there's about $14 to $16 million in SDCs alone before the increase here that will come in from this subdivision that's about to go away. That's why I'm here. I'm real serious. So let's get into the Planning Commission decision, where the Planning Commission made a decision where the city came in and says we want the developer to pay for all of it, 66% for one, 34% for the other. The city says, no, the developer should pay their fair share of the light, which is 6% for the traffic they add. Then with this SDC increase, that comes back, and it's kind of hard to explain, but by increasing the SDC's transportation on the developer now, essentially they're not paying their 6%, they're going to end up paying 100%. It really has to be thought through how that works, but essentially this is circumnavigating Planning Commission decision. So the Planning Commission says, in the current situation, we want you to pay X amount. After the decision was made, now we get this up, and they're paying much more, and it just flat out isn't fair. And it takes a minute, you really have to think about it and look at the planning commission. That's why I got this to you a month ago, so you could really cross-reference everything. I did come at the end and say, quote some stuff from some state studies. It's really important, and I wish you could have got a chance to review that, because it really explains how this impacts everything. But
That's 3 minutes, Mayor.
I'm going to finish briefly finish the thought.
the thought is, I would seriously consider utilizing the methods that are set forth by the state to reduce your SDCs in order to encourage development. That's one. Lower your CIP list. It's super complicated, you need to get into it. But also, there's another concept where you, at this point, approve this resolution, but don't have these increases come on to Brandy Meadows, be implemented on Brandy Meadows, because they're already paying their share of it through the planning commission decision. I know
Yeah.
that's complicated, but.
You did put that in I recall, I read that in the thing. So thank you very much for taking the time to,
Yeah, I'm sure you had an opportunity to review those other documents too.
I did.
That this relates to. All 700 pages.
Mike Erdman, you're the next person. Good evening and welcome to City Council.
Thank you. Mike Erdman with the Home Builders Association of Marion and Polk Counties. Look, here to speak about the SDCs and specifically the Monmouth Street, 7th Street intersection. We know you're going to love your SDCs, but the central tenet of SDCs is they're supposed to pay for the capacity needs of future growth and not for existing deficiencies. That is the tenet of SDCs. We've got big concerns about the way this is being levied. You've got a traffic impact analysis that was from last year, adopted by the city or accepted by the city, that showed that intersection is at a failing level of service already. It's in your documents. It's a failing level of service. And I spoke to Gerald, your Public Works Director, this afternoon on it, and Gerald explains, well, the reason for that is because the delay on 7th Street, not necessarily that it's Monmouth Street. But the whole point is the delay on 7th Street is caused by the traffic on Monmouth. Otherwise, there wouldn't be that delay. I also ran this by Salem's very recently retired Public Works Director, who just retired this year. And he looked at this and he said, Salem would never do something like this. He said, this is not the way you're supposed to levy SDCs. You can't force the entire cost of a failing intersection onto growth. There's got to be a share that's paid by the community and by growth. And I know that you haven't got money lying around in the city budget to pay for that necessarily, but what you should be doing is what other cities do, and that's a transportation infrastructure bond. If you have responsibilities that the community's got to pay for, you got to match that to the SDC monies. It's very, very important. And frankly, this is just one example of some very egregious examples of the way the city has treated SDCs that I don't have time to get into in 3 minutes. I just ask you, Independence's SDCs are out of control. You're going to be over 31,000 if you adopt this resolution tonight. And I know we're looking at additional changes for next year. Are we going to be at 40,000, 50,000? And I guess we've got to ask, what is anybody doing to look at this? What is anybody doing? Is there any concern about housing affordability? Is there any concern about why Independence's SDCs are so far out of the norm for other communities? Dallas and Monmouth were, I think, more than double what those fees are, close to triple. I think Monmouth's 2.5 times or so. I guess from an industry perspective, it's just frustrating to hear cities not complain, it's the wrong word, but express concern about housing affordability, and yet not turn their attention to their contribution to the problems. It's intensely frustrating. So I guess my point is if housing affordability is not a concern, okay, and if you're not concerned about making sure your fees are done correctly and equitably, pass this resolution. But if you are concerned about that, we urge you to pause, and we need to sit down, we need to look at the proper allocation of how costs like this intersection should be paid for. It absolutely is a failing intersection. Not 100% of the cost should be thrust upon future growth. So that's all I have for you. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time to come in. You okay?
Well, sorry, I've had a little tick in the.
Okay.
My apologies.
That's all right. Just don't die in us. Okay, we're going to move forward with reports. And I'm going to get to do the first one. I have a lot of things to talk about. First, about the, today was the AARP conference in Monmouth, and I'm going to ask Councilor Kaur to talk a little bit about what we were awarded and a short overview of what took place, please.
This is the lovely plaque, I'm sure it's going to be hanging somewhere here in the event center, thank you. We sought this dedication to help institutionalizing, factoring older adults into our planning, and to secure grants to help us make some iterative improvements to support older adults. It may sound like a money grab, but we get a lot of grant opportunities out of this network agreement. So, and I'm also looking forward to the amazing network of resources that we're going to have available to us to help implement some of these age-friendly initiatives. And just quickly, Mayor, I want to thank a few people if I can. AARP Oregon, of course, for hosting the event, Western for being the venue. They did a remarkable job today. The City of Monmouth, specifically Barbara Cronin, the Community Senior Center Director, Saber Jewel for emceeing today. She did a fantastic job. Both of the mayors for taking time out of their busy schedules to accept the designation, and to our city managers for their enthusiastic support of this effort. So thank you so much. I think this is going to do wonders for our community, and I look forward to working with AARP Oregon.
I'm going to take a moment and also call out Councilor Kaur for working on this effort. What this opens the door for is working with other cities around the state and around the nation on making our community even more inclusive, especially for seniors. And I had the opportunity to talk a little bit about the importance of working as a collective to talk to the state about the necessary infrastructure that is necessary to provide, the housing that's needed in not just our community, but the state. And because you got to have sewer, water, and roads, and somebody's got to pay for it. So anyway, it was, I really appreciate your efforts and, step by step increasing the awareness. So thank you, Councilor. Other things that I had going on since I've had a chance last to visit with you. For those of you who attended the Hopin Heritage Festival, it was a hoot. It was a great activity. I enjoyed being there. While I was there, I got ambushed by a bunch of cheerleading young ladies who convinced me that I needed cupcakes and cookies, and so it was really fun. Also, as you know, I'm involved with the Oregon Mayors Association. We had a nominating committee meeting, and I was involved with that, and also serving on the COG Board of Directors. And for those of you who recall, Council of Governments provides a lot of resources to communities. We do use some of their contract planners here in our community, and 43 member governments come together. Attended the Senator Patterson's town hall that she had here in town. I've had the pleasure of being part of the League of Oregon Cities trainings up in Forest Grove and in Salem, helping lead the sessions on handling difficult meetings. And so that was both fun to do and a real honor to be involved with that. Attended the Western Oregon University President's Address, and I got to tell you, I want to publicly shout out that we have a great partner in the president of Western Oregon University, Jesse Peters. Both publicly and privately, he and his team are a real asset to our community. Had a chance to give Senator Wyden's district staff person a detailed tour of the city of Independence. It was a long enough tour that she qualified for an Independence pin. And so she now understands a lot more about what we're doing, and I know staff have followed up with her. The library celebrated its 20th anniversary. It's hard to believe it was 20 years ago that the library opened. Had a chance to speak there and visit with some volunteers and some young people that were brand new into the library. As I've reported previously, I serve on the Council of Governments Legislative Committee, and we hosted a legislative gathering at 7 a.m. in Salem, and we had 82 people attend, meeting with a number of legislators from around the region. And the major issues were infrastructure funding, Transportation, the impacts of Measure 5 and 50, and so there was an opportunity to talk both with our local representatives, but got a chance to visit with senators and representatives from throughout the region and attack that. Did attend the Pitchfork Barbecue that Paul Evans put together, and I just want to say, the political folks are always doing fundraisers, but Paul did, Representative Evans, challenged other people to do a fundraiser that wasn't for them in each of their districts and a fundraiser for a nonprofit. And this was the 6th year he did that, and this was a fundraiser for the food bank. And so I was out there with my pitchfork and steak over a fire, so that was fun. The Oregon Main Street Conference, of course, was here, and I think Mr. Irvine will talk about that. Had an opportunity to welcome people and host a reception with my colleague, Mayor Kuntz. The Ghost Walk, of course, was a hoot. I was out in front of Valkyrie and was telling stories. And so, whoops, I have to turn my page over now. And then coming up tomorrow, I'm attending the League of Oregon Cities Board meeting as a past president, and I'm serving on the nominating committee, and I'm facilitating the Beyond the Beltway work breakout session and talking about accessing federal funding through senators and congressional members and also agencies. So it will be a busy time. So anyway, that's my report. And I'm going to turn it over to our city manager, and she'll take it from there. Ms. West.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll honor Councilor Morton, even if she's not here, and come up here. Because I know she'll watch this, and she'll be excited to see me up here. The Oregon Main Street Conference, Sean will fill you in on it, but I want to give a huge, amazing shout out to my staff that worked so hard with Ida and with Councilor Schwarzler on this event. This event was the highest attended event for the Main Street ever, right, Sean? And I'm not going to take any more than that. They worked tirelessly. They worked behind the scenes. They made things look seamless and easy. And if you've ever run a conference, they are not seamless and they are not easy. So making them look that way is astounding. I couldn't have been more proud of the people that worked on it and what they did for this community. I have a lot like the mayor did, so I'm going to jump right in. Our police department is working with our IT department, because that's what we do, we work together, to install new cameras from Motorola within the city. We are beta testing these cameras, so there's no cost to us other than our staff time. We're excited to have those in. And then our museum has been extraordinarily busy with nearly 5,000 visitors since January. The next exhibit opened today. And that is A Century of Wonder, 100 Years of Oregon State Parks. I'm actually going to go see that one. I love our parks, and I would recommend everyone go see that one. We're finalizing the LOC Annual Conference My Trolley Tabletop exhibit. Well, it's finalized. I'm taking it down with me tomorrow because, like the mayor, I will be at the LOC Board of Directors meeting bright and early at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning in Eugene. And then we'll have the conference. Also, like the mayor, I'll be hosting one of the sessions on water rights, and I'll be moderating one of the sessions on Measure 5 and 50 and its effect on housing. That one should be really interesting. And then I want to give another shout out to one of our personnel, our communications coordinator. He was nominated and received the Bulldog Award from the American Public Works Association for his work in highlighting what our Public Works Department does, and in particular, his video on the biosolids removal project. It's pretty amazing. He's only been with us for a year and a half, maybe almost 2, and he's already receiving awards. In planning, our planner has been working, and then some. We only have one, as the mayor said. We do contract with COG because our planner is so extraordinarily busy. He's working on the downtown parking experience, the central town study, the certified local government grant, that's the historic district grant to help folks. And he's had a ton of responses for that, which is fabulous. He's also doing ongoing reviews of all of the projects that are coming in, residential, commercial, and industrial. And again, we are so busy with all of those that we have to have a planner come in and help him out. Our library has also been busy, as the mayor said. Open house had over 150 attendees. Isn't that astounding? The Friends of the Library quarterly book sale was this weekend. I don't have the numbers yet, but I'm hoping that they are good. The Independence Youth Coding League, I don't know if I've talked about that. And Counselor, you could probably fill us in a little bit on that if I can throw you under the bus.
I can fill you in just a little bit, but I know that the teams are off and running and the scores are starting to come in. So it's been a really great start for us to have our first coding team, and they're very excited about it. So.
And we actually were lucky enough to see one of the projects, and it is pretty amazing what these youth can do. Very, very, very impressive. I know Sean's going to talk about a couple of things. One of the things that I really want to talk about is we're working on an EDA grant for our wastewater treatment facility. It's about a $4 million grant. And Sean, Marshall, and Gerald have been working so hard on this. This is how we try to keep costs down, is we go after these grants and we work really hard on them. Karina, who is Wyden's staff and the mayor toured, she's doing a letter of support, and she's asking the Senator Merkley staff and Congresswoman Salinas' staff if they will sign on as well. Again, supporting the work that we do here. So there are ratepayers, and others do not have to pay as much as they would otherwise. Speaking of public works, we have a lot of projects in public works. 21 on my list. Gerald's here, ask him for the details. Don't ask me, but I will give you an overview. We have Polk Well number 4. We have the 9th Street Pump Station. We have finalization of the F Street Bridge replacement. We have the Water Management Conservation Plan. We're monitoring the Marion County Bridge Scour project. That's another jurisdiction, but we do monitor it. Okay, I say we. Gerald monitors it. We have the Polk County Hoffman Gun Club Road Safe Routes to School. That's Gerald and Fred, and Councilor Clerk keeps her fingers in that as well. We have the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. We have the Sunset Park improvements. We have the C Street sewer replacement. We have the 9th Street pump station, phase 2 and 3. We have the hazard mitigation plan update. We have the surface water treatment plant. That is our $25 million water treatment facility that we need in order to keep water flowing through our city. We have the Riverview pathway repairs. We have the stormwater master plan. We have the TMDL update. We have the water SDC rate update. We have the road survey for annexation. We have the pool house demolition. We have the parks master plan update. We have the Chestnut Bridge project, which again, on that one, we are looking at grants, and earmarks in particular, and Congresswoman Salinas has put that forward for us for about $500,000. That is also Representative Evans got us $2 million for a little over $4 million project. Again, looking for grants to keep the costs down. And then finally, the Corvallis Road water line. Again, Congresswoman Salinas put us forward for the full cost of that, which is about $800,000, Gerald. 890, something like that. And that is working its way through. We're hoping to get that. That is kind of the first step on that water treatment facility. I also attended the ARP Age Friendly Summit, and I wanted to give a shout out to Councilor Kaur. We would have never been there without her. And I watched her work tirelessly to get us there. And she's right, it's not about grants. They certainly will help, but to make our community a better place, to create an all ages ability within our entire community, isn't that an amazing thing? Mm-hmm. And to have access to all of those experts. Now, I'm going to leave you with 2 things. Fred in planning, when he finishes up, he does a video for the Planning Commission. I'm not going to do that to you. You have a lot of work to do. But I want to leave you, and I'll try and do this every week, I want to leave you with 2 quotes that I think are kind of important. One from an old guy, and one from someone who's a little closer to us. The first is from Seneca, a philosopher, statesman, and leading intellectual figure in Rome in the mid-1st century AD. He who has great power should use it lightly. And then Bill Gates. As we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. Both saying the same thing in different centuries, in different ways. Thanks, Council.
Appreciate
Ken,
that.
just a quick question, that the panel that you're going to moderate on 5 and 50, if that's going to be filmed, can we get a link to that, please?
Absolutely, and I will bring you back the amazing documents that have already been created.
Perfect, thank you.
Great. Mr. Irvine, I think you have a couple of reports you're going to make. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's been a little while. Mayor, council, appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. Kenna always steals my best line. So so I want to talk a little bit about the Oregon Main Street conference that happened last week. I've talked about Main Street before. This is a statewide organization that's a kind of a collection of communities who are all focused on downtown revitalization, largely small communities from throughout the state. It's an annual conference. Actually, every 2 years is what they're going to start doing now. And they asked to have that conference here because they see us as such a great example of downtown revitalization. Obviously, great weather, great turnout. It was record registration. They had over 200 people registered, not counting speakers and not counting staff. So total number was probably closer to 230 to 250, which was great to bring to the community. Bit of a challenge trying to fit everybody because we literally don't have a venue that will seat 200 and 250 people. So we had our opening session in the amphitheater on Wednesday afternoon. We had breakouts in 3 different locations downtown plus the cinema. And then the closing session was also at the cinema. We did 5 walking tours on Thursday afternoon, including one that they hopped the trolley and went over to Monmouth and did a little walking tour around downtown Monmouth. So just a great way to kind of showcase the community and actually even the wider community, getting people over to Monmouth. We also used it to debut we're sort of thinking of it as Scratches 2.0, but it's a wooden nickel program. So every attendee got a wooden nickel with a QR code on it. It takes you to a website that will show you the businesses that will accept that wooden nickel, which is good for $5 at that business on a $5 purchase or more. And it was really kind of a way that we wanted to try to, like I say, continue the Scratch It program, but we've had events in the past where there's always sort of a question of, well, we had all these people here, did they actually go and patronize local businesses? Did they actually go and eat in the restaurants? And we never had a great way to sort of prove that. And so this is an experiment to see if we give these things out to, conference attendees, event attendees, then the businesses will turn them in, we'll essentially buy them back from the businesses and we'll have a pretty solid idea of, yeah, we gave 200 of these out and we got 100 back. So, 50% redemption rate, that's, it may be good, may not be good. You'll have to kind of decide what those numbers are. We have not, it's obviously pretty recent after the conference, so we haven't started getting those back yet, but I'm real interested to see how that wooden nickel program plays out. And it is going to be an ongoing thing, so businesses will be able to opt in or opt out as we go along. I really do want to say thank you to the Independence Downtown Association, Councilor Schwarzler, a couple of board members from IDA really were sort of, and my staff also, Courtney Williams, really were sort of the core of the planning group for this conference. We had a lot of additional volunteers that acted as kind of room stewards and sort of standing on the sidewalk between sessions saying, hey, the session's over here, because moving, not having it in a true event center where you're just sort of going room to room. Instead, people were traveling, a block or two downtown and going into downtown businesses, the Elks Lodge, we were in the Gilgamesh patio and then at Indy Commons. It was really nice to have people out there showing people where to go, really just sort of being ambassadors for the community, which we got great response from the attendees about that. Was really excited to have so many people come to town. The hotel was full. I cruising around a lot. There was a lot of people in the restaurants, both lunchtime and dinner time. Both evenings I left around 8:30 or 9 o'clock and just kind of did a drive through the downtown and still saw clumps of people in most of the restaurants in places like Jubilee. So, I haven't gotten official feedback from business owners yet, but I'm pretty happy with what it looked like, just kind of to my eye. And then, talking to attendees, I've heard from a lot of people about how much they enjoyed it, how much they learned here, how excited they were to see all of this. It was just really great energy. And then the other thing that I think is really great about this is it allowed us to put a really good face on the community because, these people were coming from all over the state. I talked to people from LeGrand, from Lake County, from like Enterprise, Joseph area, just literally all over the state. But there was also people here from state agencies, from private foundations, from funders. And so it's just a great opportunity to sort of showcase our community, showcase our ability to do things like this, and hopefully give those folks confidence, if and when we end up approaching them for a grant or for some kind of assistance and support. So I think that's what I have to say about Main Street. Would be happy to answer any questions you might have. If I come up with some other great statistic later down the road, I'll come back and tell you about it.
How long have you been the Economic Development Director, Sean?
17.
Well, I've been here 18 years. I was community development technician for 7 or 8. So 10 or 11, 12 years?
I asked that because I was approached by so many people at the Age Friendly Summit today who haven't been to Independence for 15 or 20 years, and they were floored by how it's changed. And that goes for Monmouth as well. They had so many good comments to make about how vibrant our business is, our Main Street is, the amphitheater, everything. They did make one comment, though, apparently this is a migratory bird season or whatever, and our downtown lights may be bothering them. I don't know, but on another note, Lake County might be calling you. Just saying.
Always happy to talk to them.
And Sean, I know that you were going to add something that the Wooden Nickel program is funded through the transient occupancy tax.
Yes, you're right. So that would be the funding for us to be able to buy that back is coming from the hotel tax, the lodging tax that we have. So it's essentially a way to be able to take the money we're getting from visitation and use it to encourage additional visitation.
And you're going to talk about the summer series?
Yes, yep. If we're done with Main Street, I'm happy to talk summer series. All right, summer series. So it was a great summer. It actually, I can't believe it's October already. It feels like summer was just here. So summer series is just continuing to grow and do even more. We've got, I think, a great division of responsibilities in terms of putting it all together, but it's still a lot of work and frankly is becoming even more work as it grows. Travel Salem has a new data system that uses cell phone data to put it through an algorithm and tell you how many people come to events, restaurants, things like that. We talked to them about our summer series, and it's based on that data, we were about 30% greater attendance at summer series this year than we were last year. So really, just really, really big crowds. And I think if you went to any of the shows, you would agree with that. The other thing I thought was interesting was that about 50, it varied depending on the show, but 50 to 60% of the attendees were from Independence and Monmouth. So definitely getting a lot of local people, but definitely also bringing a lot of people from out of the area. With growth comes growing pains. We had to bring in a bunch of portable restrooms halfway through because the line at the restrooms was just getting unbearably long. For whatever reason, we had trouble getting vendors to show up. I think this went out in an email to council at the time. We had 5 vendors that signed up to go to attend the summer series concerts at the beginning of the series. We just couldn't get more than 2 or 3 of them to show up to a particular show, and I just don't know why. We're going to try to have a few more people on that list for next year. The upshot is, downtown business has got a ton of business. People were taking out and carrying into the concert, left and right. And I have talked to a bunch of the downtown businesses that say they did very well, before the show, and usually kind of partway through the opening act, they would empty out. And then usually if it was like a, kind of a bar or a pub type of a thing, then they would fill up again after the concert ended. So it's really doing what we wanted in terms of bringing people to the community, being an economic benefit to our downtown businesses, and then also being a great just kind of community amenity for the folks that live here. So that's, I think, kind of the summary. We're always going to be continuing to dial it in and work on making things better, but I think we're just on a really good path, and we're just going to try to keep going as long as we can.
Great.
Questions?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, Mr. Fisher. So we're going to discuss transportation system development charges. I have a couple counselors who want to read a couple things in the record. Counselor Martin Willis.
Yeah, so this evening, an amended transportation SDC is under consideration for council adoption on, I believe it was 10/9, so earlier this week. While working in my capacity as staff for Representative Evans, I did have a phone call with Mr. Dahlke, during which time he communicated some personal opinions against our STC charges, but did not provide me at that time with any new information or evidence regarding our proposed update that we'll be considering this evening. I believe that I'm able to and will base my decision in this matter on information presented to council at the September 12th meeting and tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Job, I think you wanted to say something?
Yes, I received a call from Mike Erdman today, brief conversation, and he just decided he would come today and talk, and he was able to talk today to everyone, so I don't think there's any issue.
Great. Anybody else have anything else? Okay. We had public hearing last time. We had lots of conversation. We had public input. We had questions. We were visiting with staff. Mr. Fisher has had a chance to review the tape from last time. He got to sit through all of it. And so I think that it's to you, and I think you have information for us.
Thank you.
To you, Mr. Fisher.
Mayor. Karen, can you turn to page 11 of the, there we go. Thank you. So some of this, I'm going to be kind of weaving in and out. It's things that were brought up during the last city council meeting, questions, comments during public input. And I wanted to show you this. This is our system development charge page on the Public Works website. On the right-hand side is the wastewater and transportation system development charge update. I think you all had a chance to read that from front to back and enjoyed that reading with a lot of coffee, right? And then down in the bottom left hand, there's a link to another page. And Karen, can you flip over to the next page? And this all gets into transparency. What are we doing? How are we being transparent so that the community and builders and developers know what our charges are in relation to system development charges? So I put this table together so that a builder coming into town could do some estimates of what their system development charge fees would be. It's got the water SDCs for single-family unit or multifamily unit. Anything that's non-residential is based on meter size. And then down below that is the wastewater system SDCs. We updated those, and they're based on water meter size. You'll notice on all of them, they show the improvement, the reimbursement, and the administrative fee. The administrative fee, that 5% is 5% of the improvement and reimbursement fees together. It's a one-time fee that's charged for handling that money. Whether we spend it the next fiscal year or we spend it 10 years down the road, that money actually goes to the finance department to handle and manage that money until I expend it on projects. Down below that is a stormwater system fee, and it's single-family and duplex units. You'll notice that this doesn't cover everything. Down below that is transportation system SDC, and then the park system SDC. And scroll down there to the bottom. And I put a note in here. The following items will be calculated by the Public Works Director, and a sheet will be provided for finance. Stormwater SDCs for residential types, commercial and industrial. Transportation SDCs for all uses other than single-family residential and duplexes. Check for updates at the beginning of each year. Now, this is in alignment with our SDC resolution, how we charge SDCs, and our inflationary index. We put that out the first of every year. When developers come in, or builders, anybody who's looking to do a single-family home, a duplex, a large industrial development, when they meet with us, I always offer up to do a preliminary estimate of what their system development charges are. So if you got through your construction and you submitted building plans today, and I knew what water meter size you needed. I knew how much impervious surface there was for stormwater. I knew the size of your building and the use of your building, because it depends on the use of the building. I could calculate out what your SDCs would be. We offer that up freely so that when they're putting their lending package or their financing package together, they have a pretty good idea of what their SDCs are going to be. We always caveat it with, they're always subject to change. As the SDCs get updated, they increase, but I always let them know if it is increased, that that's coming up. Like if a development is kind of in the process and they're not going to get building permits in until after, I give them that information of what that SDC is going to be, okay? So they're not in the dark, it's totally transparent, and we provide it on our website. Karen, can you flip to the next one? So here is a summary table that is in this pretty big spreadsheet that I use to calculate SDCs, and basically it's boiled down of those three manuals that are over there on the desk. Does anybody want to take a look at those manuals? They have really neat graphs and formulas. So what it is each one on the left-hand side, there's a classification or a use number. And if you look down at the highlighted, classification 210 is a single-family detached home. 220 is multifamily low-rise. Now, they used to have these broken up into different, you'd have townhomes and duplexes and apartments. Recently, they combined all those. So on a per unit basis, the primary trip ends, and I'll get into primary trip, is 0.99. That's basically a PM peak hour trip, okay? The improvement SDC is 10,884, and if you look up at the top, there's that 10,994. That's one trip. So they're only doing 0.99 trip for a single-family house. And then there's another number in the resolution that has the reimbursement, and it's 0.99 of that number is 318. The administrative fee is 5% is 561. So the SDC is 11,763. That's the total, reimbursement, improvement, and the administrative fee. So if it's not a simple single-family home or a duplex or even an apartment, which I can quickly calculate, I have to go down through this table and look up all of the other classifications and do calculations. That's why I don't put it on that simple sheet on the website, because it's impossible for me to do. Some of them are based on 1,000 square feet of gross floor area, number of pump islands, how many bowling lanes are in an alley, how many screens are in a movie theater. They're all different. They're not a simple plug and chug. And this is a standard form that's based on the ITE manual that pretty much everybody uses, okay? So Karen, can you flip forward a couple of pages, because we don't need to look through all the rest of the numbers. So what I did is I put together the sheet that the builders get. And this is a breakdown of their costs. So what I did is I just said, okay, single family home. This is an example for current SDCs. And if you look down at the bottom, the current amount is $28,712. You got $3,307 in water, $99.88 in sanitary sewer, $22.24 in storm, transportation's $8,003, parks is $51.90. That's all of the SDCs. Flip to the next page. The next one is what the proposed SDCs would go to. So on the previous page, it was $28,712 total, $32,473 is what we're going to. On the next page, I did a summary, just per single-family home or duplex, just to keep it simple. And down at the bottom right, the net difference or increase in the SDCs is $3,761 for single-family home, and duplex is $2,127 per unit. So some of the comments that were at the last meeting, one of them was it's ambiguous, hard to understand. I've done everything I can to make it easy and put it on the website. I don't get a litany of calls asking me questions about SDCs I don't understand. Can I come in and meet with you? Doesn't happen. But we put everything on there to make it as transparent as possible, and we offer to calculate it anytime for anybody at no charge to them. The calculations have been for transportation on a per-trip basis since September of 2022. I'm not changing anything. You've already adopted these on a per-trip basis, PM peak hour. This is how I've been calculating them for the past year. I talked about the 5% admin fee, and then it's a combination of the improvement and reimbursement. The intersection that we're talking about that you included in the last CIP, the intersection's fine. The intersection was fine when Liberty 1, 2, and 3 were constructed. It was fine when Brandy 1, 2, 3, and 4 were constructed. It's also fine when Brandy 5 and 6 are constructed. The problem is on Brandy 6A, the intersection breaks. I don't define that breaking. ODOT defines it breaking. It's their intersection. They create the threshold. All we do is put the information in, and then if the development breaks it, the development has to build it. That's why we put in the conditions of approval for that development that they would build it, and that they would pay a percentage. We did send our notice out to the Home Builders Association on August 4th, as required under ORS. That came up at the last meeting. Wasn't sure when it went out. It was sent out, and I confirmed it when I got back. So I want to talk about, did you all get a chance to read the letter?
Yeah, we have it all, we all have it at our
Just want to make
place.
sure everybody had a chance to read it. I read it too. And I have a lot of red lines on this, and I want to go through them with you. So current SDCs for single-family home residents with a 1-inch meter. We don't use 1-inch meters on houses. We use 3/4 inch. The only time we do a 1-inch meter is if it's a sprinkled house. That's not something I require. That's a building code requirement. So they have to upsize it to a 1-inch. But 95, 96% of the ones that I've calculated since I've been here, 3/4 inch meter. We already talked about what the fee was. It's not $34,257, it's $28,712. And the proposed SDC is going to be $32,473. Last council meeting, Kenna also talked about SDCs for us compared to everybody else. It's apples and oranges. Everybody's different. We have our own list of projects. Our list isn't the same as Monmouth or anybody else. One of the comments in here is there's 450 homes as part of this development for Brandy Meadows. So I went back and I looked at the planning file. Residential acreage is 17 acres. It's a little over 9 dwelling units per acre. Brandy Phase through 5 is 186 dwelling units. So running those numbers, total SDCs would be a little over 6,440,000. Single-family homes are not 100% of those units. Remember the 0.99, and the one right down below it was 0.56. So we don't get the full amount because they're not generating the same trips. Single-family lots, 45. Duplex lots, 29. Townhomes, 23, and 60 apartments. So we're not charging the full transportation for all of those units at a single-family home rate. So if you pass the SDCs tonight, did another quick calc based on those numbers that were approved as part of the planning package. Single family would generate for transportation SDCs $529,289. All of the others would generate $745,162. The total of those two for Brandy phases 5 through 9 is $1,274,451. The signal cost is $2.5 million. So the statement in here that Brandy is paying for all of it, it's not true. It's not accurate. The 34% cost to be paid by Dalkey and 66% to be paid by Allied, that's not what staff put forward. It was 30, let me go from memory here, it was 37 or 38% is what we recommended, and the other percent was city.
Well, let's just,
So SDCs. When you create a project that's not part of the CIP or the master plan, you have to add that in. When we did the master plan, it was actually before I got here, put every project in there that they could think of that they were going to need for the next 20 years. So we based our SDCs off of those projects. In comes this development. The intersection at 7th and Monmouth was never identified as a signal, a roundabout, or anything other than left turn pockets. But because there isn't a network connection throughout the rest of the system, we don't have Mount Fur, we don't have Chestnut connecting to 13th and over to Talmadge, it takes all of the development traffic and dumps it on this intersection, which is exactly what the traffic analysis said. You can build 5, you can build 6, but at 6A, it's broke. So we put the condition in there. Planning decision's been made. No appeals. The number is set, 6%. The developer pays 94%. The community pays, okay? How do we pay for that? System development charges. So you've added it into your CIP. I've recalculated what the difference is, which is that $3,200 per single family home. And the SDCs before you tonight are the cost of that signal that is being driven by the development. Do you have any questions?
questions for staff at this point? I see our city manager asking me. Go ahead.
Gerald, would you please talk about when we get those SDCs, what we do with them?
Thank you. So as part of that development, the developer has to build the signal. Well, they're only responsible out of pocket for 6%, right? Which means we have to reimburse them the 94%. So as soon as the signal's done, we've agreed on the price and all of the costs that are incurred on that. I have to take the transportation SDCs that they will be paying on phases 6A, 7, 8, and 9, and I have to zero those out. They don't pay them because I'm paying them back for our cost of the signal. At the end of it, if we haven't made them whole, all future SDCs for transportation that come in from all the other developments, they come in, they pass through the city, and they go right back out to the developer until they have a zero balance. We don't owe them any more money, okay? I can't work on any other transportation-related projects with SDCs until the developer is made whole. We've committed those SDCs for his development, which is 1.5 million, and all the other SDCs that come in until he's paid up. And the reason why we do that is because he can build it for cheaper than we can. So he's made whole. They're not losing any money. They've paid their 6%. They've complied with the requirements. The signal's built, and all other developments that come in, they're not held up by that signal not being there. Signal's in. Signal's operating. They're not going to have a condition, you have to build a signal. All they have to do is pay these SDCs. And we'll take that money and we give it to the developer to pay him off. And then once he's paid off, then I can start ramping up and working on other projects.
You good? Are we at questions now?
That makes sense?
You're at full reimbursement.
Full reimbursement.
Okay. So, questions for staff at this point? And I'm sure there are probably some. Who would like to do? I have one, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear. So, what we're basically talking about here for a single-family home is we're talking about a change of 3761. Okay, and so that's what the discussion is about. If we don't adopt the SDCs, how will the infrastructure that it's needed be paid for?
First, it'll be paid for with all the other SDCs. It'll take longer to get paid back. And it hampers your ability to move forward on the 20 years of improvements that you've already adopted. So in other words, you're not going to get to build the stuff. It's basically kicking the can.
Are we potentially looking then at user fee increases to pay for these projects?
We don't have a user fee in place. Other than the SDCs, correct me if I'm wrong, you can bond for it. And then that goes on taxes. What else? There's fees. Yeah, you could do a transportation improvement fee, not street maintenance, transportation improvement to cover the costs. But again, you're asking the existing citizenry to pay.
That's precisely the point I was.
Yeah, you're asking them to pay because you've given new development and the people who are moving into the community a break and said, don't worry about it, we're going to cover part of the cost for you.
So, I just want to make sure I heard you clearly, and I'm purposely doing this, is that, so if we don't approve the SDCs, then to have infrastructure improvements, it would end up going on the ratepayers. And so, and
somewhere or another.
Right, and then SDCs are paid on new development, new houses, new stuff.
New stuff.
And and that can only go on to new infrastructure.
Yes.
It's not, SDCs can't be used for old stuff.
No, they're prohibited from being used for operations. They're capacity increasing projects.
Thank you. I just wanted to make that really clear. Councilor Jobe.
So on the SDCs that you're talking about, it's, the project really is the traffic light, so it wouldn't be other projects.
No, it's traffic light. Yeah, and it's not only this development that pays for it, but all other developments, all the other commercial and industrial, because it's one big pot of projects. And everybody pays into it, so the whole system works. So an industrial property that's up off of, by the airport, they're gonna now be paying more for that signal that's down there because it's part of the network system now in the capital improvement plan.
Does this help us out, like, with qualifying for loans and things for all of the projects we need?
Not really. There's not a lot of stuff out there in the way of transportation. There are loans, but then you have to create a revenue stream to reimburse it. And gas taxes are flat and declining. we don't have another revenue source for streets. Streets is not a utility that you pay a fee for.
Counselor Roden.
Could this all have been avoided if we would have planned for the egress through the Chestnut Street Bridge or Mountain Fir to be paid for by developers initially?
What's a dusty crystal ball? And I've yet to work for an agency or know of an agency that has had a crystal ball and had everything built, at least in this state, that has everything built and ready to go so development can just plug and play.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't need a crystal ball to look at 7th Street and know that we need more than one egress to that area. And I know this isn't on you, any of you here, because you weren't here when this happened, but you would think that we would have planned for egress from that location well before we developed this entire place, for us to be stuck at this.
Yeah, it was planned for. It was planned in the master plan, and that was the Chestnut Street connection over to 13th and another street connection over to Talmadge, and then Mount Fir over to Corvallis Road. There was a network built in the master plan, said if you build these roads, you have all the connectivity you need. But it's kind of a chicken and an egg thing. If the infrastructure isn't in and you want to build the houses, but they can't go in because you don't have the infrastructure in, and unless the community as a whole is willing to say, you know what, I want to bond for those projects and build those projects so development can go in.
Why can't you, I guess I just don't understand why we couldn't have had the foresight to have the developer start paying this fee a decade ago, because, I mean, I'm not a builder, but I know that we have to have these ways out. Why couldn't we have planned this before? And we have to be able to do this in the future.
The SDCs were based on the plans that they had in the past, and the Transportation Master Plan was updated in 2019, 18, 19? It was before I got here. It was adopted a few months before I got here. So you did do master planning. I don't know what was before that. I didn't see the master plan before that. But you have done Southwest Concept Plan that laid out how that area was going to function, and that was folded into the Transportation Master Plan. But you can't set the fees, the SDCs, until you have the master plans in place. You have to have all the projects in place.
But we were allowed to build it, even though we didn't have all the plans in place.
They were allowed to build in undeveloped areas, and there was a need for them, the Transportation SDC, or Transportation Master Plan, to be updated, and that work moved forward as development continued to happen.
So this is your chicken and egg kind of
Yeah.
thing. You have a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit
Yeah.
going forward.
Yeah, they walk along with each other in parallel. They've never been, okay, we're prepared, planned, and ready and funded to build these projects, to make all of these connections. A lot of times, depending on where you're at, development makes all of the connections. They grow in from two outside areas and meet in the middle. But you've got a stream, Ash Creek, and you've got a railroad that basically put walls up on both sides. So they've grown down in between the walls, but they haven't made the transportation connections across them.
So
It
the
did-
stream and the railroads just appeared out of nowhere. I'm not just saying, we should have just had better, like, we could have had kids draw pictures and probably figured this out a little bit.
Other questions for staff at this point? Okay, I don't see any other questions, and we have a decision to make. And excuse me?
I was running and I had another one after this.
Oh, yeah, let's take care of one thing at a time here. We have action items here, and what would people like to do? I did appreciate the detail here. We're on page 19.
I move to adopt resolution 23-1589.
And is that in reference Exhibit A?
I'm sorry?
And referencing Exhibit A, that's on
Page 9.
page 9, I'm sorry, I was ahead. Excuse me. Thank you. I have a motion to adopt Resolution 23-1589. Who would second?
Second.
Second by Martin Willis. Discussion. Comments, thoughts? Counselor Schwartzler.
I understand the situation that we're in with, do the citizens pay or do the developers pay? And we're in a tough spot with that. And this is more of a comment than anything. I do have a growing concern, though, about being perceived as a community that is getting less friendly to development or to developers. I have experienced working with communities where meaning, or the community is not perceived as being friendly to development or developers, and you get the less quality. And so I do think that we need to consider the community that we want to be and the types of development that we want to attract here, and to figure out a way to work with the people that we need. Frankly, we need developers. We will have to develop more housing, and make sure that we are considering being a community that is wanting to partner with the developers to get quality developments here in the community.
Thank you for your thought. Additional comments?
I just want to say I absolutely agree with that. Thank you.
Great. Anything else?
I would just like to say, I think this is a pickle that we're in. But we're here to represent the people who live in Independence now, and people in Independence now can't afford to have fees put upon them, and we have to be able to look out for the people who are already in our community. And I agree, we need to look out for future development too, but we can't put a levy on families, we can't put fees on families, and we're just in an unfortunate situation now.
Additional comments? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Nay.
I have, Job is a no. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Mr. Fisher, you have the next item, please.
City fee schedule update. This is all public works related stuff. If you can turn to page 29 of the packet. Basically what I did is some cleanup, some housekeeping here. Miscellaneous equipment, item D, it had a whole bunch of costs in there, but we actually do the federal public works rate. So I just took all of that, all those numbers out that could change and just referenced the federal rate. And then in section F, there was this whole mix of public versus private. We just charge 1% for plan review and 4% for permits and inspection for any public improvements that are done by private development. I don't charge capital projects. I don't charge myself. This is only, so when I saw this public versus private, it didn't make any sense to me. Never done this before, so I just stripped all of it out and said, look, we're gonna charge 1% for plan review and 4% for the construction portion of it. Didn't change the number, just took out a lot of the extra stuff. On the next page, water service sizes, the meters. We have not been keeping up with our costs on meters. The meter prices have gone up, and the parts that connect the meters to the water line coming in from the street and going to the house, all of those prices have escalated. So what I did is update this to bring it to current. And this is basically a pass-through cost. This is just for us. They pay the fee so we can buy the meter and install it and get the house or the industrial property up and running. And the next one, I updated the system development charges for water. I've been slowly removing these from this schedule because they change so frequently. They change when we do our master plans and our SDC updates, and they change yearly based on inflation. And so when somebody goes to our table online and goes, oh, I'm only going to pay this much for water, and then they come and ask me, and I'm like, no, it's this much, it's sending a mixed signal. So you'll see these when we do the water SDCs. I'm going to update this and I'm going to pull it out. It'll be on our website, it'll be up on that strip form, and it'll be available for them and kept current versus this other document that having to change it constantly and bring it back to you over and over again just seemed to me like a waste of time. So we've modified those, and I think that is all of them. Does anybody have any questions? Did you, are you talking about the SDCs or she has some strike-throughs on the meters.
That's not something new. You're just changing,
The reds are the new.
but not a new cost, it's like your new form that you're showing, or are we voting to increase this too?
I left these on here until I could get the SDC methodology up, and then I'll pull them out. They're kind of this lingering thing that's on here that I'm going to whittle away at and get off there so you don't have to mess with it anymore.
I'm trying to make it easier for you.
I am. So I don't have to keep bringing it back to you, because really I should be bringing it back to you every February with an update. And you would see this change constantly where you've already passed a resolution that say they're automatic. So I'm trying to eliminate your work.
Additional questions for staff? This is an action item, and this time I'll get to the right page. It's on page 19, if someone would care to make action.
I move to adopt Resolution 23-1590 and referenced Exhibit A.
A motion? Second by Schwartzler. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I make one plug before I go sit down?
Sure.
Just a reminder to everybody out there watching, we did put out a request for ideas for park naming at the Sunset Park, which is kind of the interim holding place. That is going to be open until the end of October. I'm going to get all those together. I'm going to take it to the Park and Rec Board. They're going to pick 3, and then we'll bring those 3 to you to pick 1. So there'll be a whittling process before it gets to you, but if anybody hasn't had a chance to go in there and think about what they'd like to have that park named, please go in and fill that out.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes, Kathy?
So
Mark
I
Willis.
had emailed our city manager on that very thing. There was a whole lot of discussion, and there is a picture of the park. It shows fences, grass, and this concrete sidewalk meandering through it, saying, name this park. And so there were a lot of questions about, well, is there going to be play equipment, or is there, is this, are we going to put in trees and shrubs, and what are we really naming? So that might be something that should be included, and that's why you're getting things like parking McPark face, or meandering concrete path. I mean,
Yeah.
so.
I haven't actually seen any of the comments that come in. I asked Emmanuel to just save them to the
It's
end.
pretty amusing on social media where that was posted to, hey, go do this, and yeah.
Yeah, Sunset Park was master plan, and there's a big concept plan, and it's available on our website, and it's in
That is not in my recollection, sort of, hey, this is this park that we're doing, and the concept will ultimately be, and we are looking for a name.
Got it.
So,
Say, use your imagination, the best part of the international.
Did anyone suggest Sunset Park?
Yes. Yes.
Like I said,
And I did-
I've been I don't want to see it. I want to wait
Right.
until everything is in, until,
And I did send that to our communications coordinator. He's-
Thank you.
thank you, I
Appreciate that.
thank you, Mayor.
Announcements. Hearing no announcements, somebody said the magic word adjourn.
Adjourn.
So ordered. Thank you very much.